Hey, what's up, everybody? It's episode 19 of what I'm doing right now. Thank you guys for tuning in. Got about 5 questions from Coach WB. Trying to keep him anonymous right now, but he has some very good questions that I want to share with you guys. So I've written him already, and I'm going to basically read those comments. So let's come back after the theme music and get back into it. All right, so Coach WB came in and dropped me a line on Facebook and asked me about 5 different questions, and it's a lot of questions. So what I want to dig into is what he's asking, and I'll be looking down and reading. Hopefully that doesn't bother you guys any. But his first question is, how should I approach and monetize my film project? So he's working on this film, and this is my response. Instead of trying to come off the top of the head and freestyle and talk, I'll go ahead and read what I wrote. Your film project is something that his film project is about basketball in his city and the history of basketball in his city. So I wrote back and I said, your film project is something that any real basketball lover in any city should be contemplating working on. It doesn't matter what city you're in. There's a story of a player that people all over the country should hear about. Like when I lived in San Diego and I played basketball at San Diego City College, there was this dude named Cedric Bagby. Now I didn't know this dude. I didn't know what high school he went to because I wasn't from San Diego. But this dude was basically Steph Curry before Steph Curry. I mean, he had handles. He could pull up from anywhere on the floor and drain it. But the dude was just like feared and everybody respected him. There's another dude, Archie Ray, that played with me at City College. He played my sophomore year. I got injured, but he played that year. But he was from Lincoln High School. Another guy that I coached with named Malon Williams from Sweetwater. He was a beast back in the 80s. These stories should be told, right? But this what has to happen. Somebody has to sit down and take the time to do a video of these cities and their hoop history. It's a great project to work on. Now, Memphis, where Coach WB is, has an even deeper story to tell. And if Coach is going to bring this story to fruition, um, and he doesn't have the money, which is his issue, which is why he's writing. If you don't have the money to do it, I'm going to give you your steps. Now, I'm not going to list these steps. I'm not going to use the board because I'm actually working on a breakdown of my streams of income right now, so I don't really want to erase that. But the first step you need to do, set up a Blogger account. Why? Because you can begin sharing stories every few days about the players from your city. You can add short video clips that you might have or pictures and box scores from back in the 80s or the 70s. Maybe catch up with some old heads, some old guys that you know of that are still around. Interview those guys for your blog. Keep the blog going because a blogger can be monetized with Google Ads. B, set up a YouTube station and start shooting video of current or recent players and comparing them to the legends. This YouTube station that you set up can also be connected to AdSense, and the videos can be monetized. Start building a community around your blog. Tell people about it and ask them to leave comments about their favorite players, right? C, now you should be writing this stuff down if you're a person that's looking at doing something similar in your own city. C, once you've begun to build your community, let them know that you are going to compile this into a film that you're going to submit to your local film festival and then to Netflix, which you can do. Start filling out your community and see if they are responsive to this project that you're going to work on. And if they're responsive to it, keep engaging with your community. You have to build a network. And then you can let them know you're going to run a Kickstarter or some other kind of crowdfunding campaign. D, the most important aspect for anyone that's going to be trying to complete a project, whether is to do it, whether you get support or not. I happen to feel that if you come up with something and it's positive and you feel passionate about it, you should do it. It shouldn't matter what the money that could be generated from it. It shouldn't matter. because what it is a passion project. And most of the times, things that you are passionate about, you will eventually earn something from it, you know. But if you don't, you don't feel like you've lost. So go ahead and do it anyway. Um, but to make it into something profitable, you're gonna have to hustle. You're gonna have to hustle and work your ass off to make that happen. But this is what's interesting is there are options for making profit. All right, you can do something called a decades city basketball game, right? And that features maybe the class of 95, the best talent in the class of 95 versus the best talent in the class of 96. And you can do this decades basketball series every weekend for a whole year. I mean, and take video and shoot video. You can make the decades basketball league shirts or beanies or whatever, and you can monetize it, and then you can make it a web station, and people can watch those videos, and that becomes a part of the legacy of this video that you're creating. So you could do a local apparel company based on promoting that film that you're working on. There are a number of different things that you can do. You can do pre-orders for tickets for basketball games or whatever, and you can literally do all of this stuff without any expenses out of your pocket. All right. So that's the first question, which was, how should I approach and monetize my film project? So that's question number one. Question number two, it's a little bit longer, and it'll be up on the wall on the board, so you won't be able to see me, but you'll be able to see it. And this is his question again. My current school I'm coaching for is a new tuition-based prep, and it is getting virtually all of my time, but we haven't raised any money yet. Therefore, there's no salary involved. It's a great service to the kids, but bad for my household. Your thoughts on fundraising options, Kickstarter. Also, how do I connect with coaches in a greater way? It's a great question. Once again, I'm going to be reading these answers because it's easier for me to read them. And if you want to write this down, if I'm talking too fast, I apologize. But if you want to write this down or rewind it and get the information, then that's the way you're going to have to do it. But hey, I have to commend you on being dedicated to the kids. I know personally how hard it is to give of your time and struggle to justify the decision when there isn't any money coming in. While community service is great, you have to get some money or your service eventually dies from lack of funding. That's just the reality. My first suggestion is to order a catalog from a website called sportsdecals.com. Now, they have several catalogs on that site, but more specifically, they have a catalog for fundraising. In episode 16, I'm going to put the link here. I talk about one of my fundraising efforts when I was a basketball coach. You should definitely do the t-shirt pre-order that I talked about in that video. On top of that, you can organize for your school teams, not just your basketball team, but whatever other team you have on your campus, your school teams, to do food truck day. All right. And you can get that word out to the area. That's not something that's just isolated to your sports team. The whole neighborhood may be interested in coming in and sampling food from these food trucks. So you can do a food truck night or a food truck day, get the whole neighborhood involved, or the whole area involved. And who knows, you may end up getting 500, 600 people come down just to eat at the food trucks, and those food trucks will share that income with you. And boom, just like that, you've made money for your program. But you have to get those food trucks to agree to a percentage. You can also create a donation letter and reach out to small business people like myself or local banks, but reach out to these small business people and don't ask for a huge amount. Just ask, if you ask 50 small businesses for $25, that's easier than saying, hey, can you give me $100? People aren't just going to come out of their pocket and give you $100. It doesn't matter how much money they're making. They're just not going to do that. That's a big chunk to ask for. But if you go out and you ask 50 small businesses for $10, 50 small businesses for $20, then that works a whole lot easier. Okay, be creative and think about it. You can find a million ways to raise funds for the school that will generate pennies, dimes, and dollars. Now, you asked about Kickstarter. Another coach asked me about Kickstarter, but he did a GoFundMe. But he didn't ask me about it until after he started his campaign. It was a big mistake. He should have asked prior. Just like in the previous question where I said you have to develop, just like when you were asking about the basketball thing, you have to develop a community before starting a crowdfunding campaign. If you just put up a campaign, your campaign will go like the coach that started the GoFundMe. One person has donated. And that's me. Just because you can run a campaign doesn't mean you should. I've had 2 failed Kickstarters, 2, and 1 successful Kickstarter. The 2 that failed because I didn't have a community and I rushed the campaign. The one that was successful, I still didn't have a community, but I discussed that campaign extensively before running it. And then when I ran the campaign, I advertised, but I advertised on what was then a much better Facebook platform. And I used Twitter. Now, those platforms are not as useful as they were. So, crowdfunding is definitely about the network that you build up. So, you have to build up a network before you decide to do a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo or a GoFundMe. You need a network first. All right. Now, B, the last part of your question is about connecting with coaches. When I was a coach, I felt isolated because I was in San Diego. I was not a San Diegan. I'd been in the military and I'd lived and played college basketball there, but I didn't grow up in San Diego. So I didn't really have a community to connect to. If you are part of your community and you grew up where you are coaching, simply use, and this is for a coach, use that website that you have. I looked at your website. You got an incredible website. It looks fantastic. Talk to fellow coaches and interview fellow coaches about their best players. And that's a great way to support your fellow coaches. And they'll do those interviews with you. And that'll help you to get support from those coaches. And that'll create a network, a community. You can also videotape those games that you guys are playing, break down the video, and don't just break down the video for your players, break down the video that's good for all of the players involved. So the other team's videos, break those down too and put them on your website. Why not? Help everybody. All right. Now, if you're saying, how do you connect to a college coach? As a recruiter for colleges before, when I ran center court basketball, the biggest thing I have to tell you is not to put a bunch of damn music on your highlight video. All right. Don't put all of that crap on there. Just edit the video in a clean and concise way and put it on YouTube as player highlights. Now, if you put it on YouTube and you have a channel for all of these videos that you're putting up and you're directing college coaches to, then that can generate a few pennies for the program. And it'll become a calling card for you to connect with coaches when you send an email. Because remember, a college coach is getting 100 emails a week from all of these different places. The thing that separates you is, what do you have to show this coach when he opens that email to read about whatever player you're writing about? I need to be able to see that player. That's the first thing that the coach is going to say. Can I see that player? But that'll separate you and it'll set you up in a better position. Okay. Now, the final thing that I can say about connecting with college coaches is, at the end of a year, you can do a fundraiser. And this fundraiser is basically going to be you bringing all of the unsigned seniors to your school and bring the juniors as well in your area together in a weekend of basketball. And you can invite D2 colleges all the way down to JUCO colleges, since those coaches don't have as many restrictions as a D1 college might have. Do the food trucks again, or cater and charge for pre-ordered plates. Now you have video of all of those seniors that are graduating that you can send out to different colleges. And you have videos of the upcoming seniors to help with recruitment for the next year. I hope that was all clear. There's a lot in that section, but we're going on to question number 3. Question number 3 from Coach WB is, how have you handled being an entrepreneur when things got tight? How did your wife support you? How tempted were you to go back to a 9-to-5 gig? This is what I wrote. These are questions that get to the core of what starting a business is all about. In episode 13, I'll put that link down there, I talked about my big mistake. Now, I've made a lot of big mistakes, and I can do a my big mistake video every weekend. So I may start doing that. But what I discussed was how I had to fight through my big mistake and how I'm still fighting. That's what this is back here on the board. That's what that's about. I'm still fighting to make things right from that mistake that I made. And I continue to make mistakes. The only thing that gets me through those tough choices and those problems is the support of my wife. I don't have a lot of friends, primarily because the friends I made are all living in San Diego. That's where really my formative years were in San Diego. I have maybe one friend here that I'm really in good and close contact with that I do discuss business stuff with. But these people that are here, even though I kind of grew up here where I live, they're more business associates, and I can't really call on them for support because they're not doing the same things that I'm doing. So my biggest problem, and it's my reason for encountering difficult situations in my business, is that I don't have people to call on for support. Now, you said, how have you handled being an entrepreneur when things got tight? This is what I wrote. My wife hates a lot of decisions I make, but she tells me her opinion and then she backs away. When I screw up, she says, I told you so. And when I succeed, I get some booty. Seriously, when I succeed, she's my biggest supporter. I think because we have a very non-traditional way of approaching life, we deal with struggles a little bit differently than most people probably deal with struggles. We deal with things based on the fact that our kids are watching us. One of the most important aspects in our lives, my wife and I, is that when our kids ask us or tell us they want to do something, we can look at them and tell them that they can do it if they work hard. And what happens is, my wife is a writer, and I'm an entrepreneur, a small business person. We are the living evidence of going for your dreams. I think kids are really perceptive, and they can see through all of the BS that you put out there. So if you tell a kid, hey, go be great, but all you're doing is nothing yourself, that kid is going to see through that. And because my wife, since you asked me how does my wife support me, since my wife knows and understands this, she supports me 100%, even when I make mistakes. And that makes me stronger. But more importantly, she supports it because you can't look at your kids and say, be fantastic, be incredible, if you aren't trying it yourself. So if you're asking me, how does my wife deal with my failures or my successes? She deals with it based on our understanding that our kids are watching us. So she supports me fully because she knows that the kids are watching, and that's important. Now, you asked me about going back to a 9 to 5. In regards to your question about going back to a 9 to 5, I haven't considered getting a job since I quit my job in 2012. 2011 was the last time I worked basically full time. 2012, I worked by choice. I picked up a class because the department head asked me to teach a class, and I said, well, I'll teach a African American lit course, and I'll teach it at this time. It was my decision to teach that last course. So I stopped working in 2011. Even when I lost $150,000 in 2013, it never popped into my head to go back to a 9 to 5. The only time now that I think about getting a job is when I think about it helping me strengthen my current business. So, like right now, I've been considering going back to teach at one of the colleges I used to work for. But I'm only considering it if I can implement a small business entrepreneur class at that college. I'm not going back to teach what they would probably want me to teach. I only want to teach if it deals with teaching people how to start a business and how to earn extra income. So that's the only thing I'm thinking about. So I don't think about going back to a 9 to 5, man. I stay dedicated to what I'm doing. I figure it out and I work through all of the difficult situations. Now, your next question, question 4, you asked, what are my thoughts on generational curses? In this book, and I know this seems like a big advertisement, and it is, but 1 Hour to Wealth, I have a chapter in here called The Invisible Wheel. Okay, chapter 3. It's about what you just asked. And I don't want to sound like a commercial, but I discussed this in great detail. And I want to ask you to just download one on your phone. It's 99 cents on Kindle. And this book was written when my wife and I, when we had to enter into Chapter 7 bankruptcy in 2007. And the book was kind of completed around 2011. In 2011 is when I made like $70,000 in 2 months, and I decided to quit my 9 to 5. I decided to quit it. This chapter in this book is the connective tissue to everything that I'm doing now. It's everything, because it's. I'll read you the last section of it, and you've probably seen this quote somewhere on my page. But this is the last section of the book, the last sentence in this chapter. Don't allow your family curse, whether it is slavery, racism, sexism, divorce, whatever your family curse, to make you the executor and writer of the same contract with the next generation. Now, you'd have to read the rest of it to get what I'm saying here, but I believe heavily in generational curses, and I don't think they're generational curses. I call them invisible wills. It's the actions that we do as parents that we pass down to our kids. They see what we do, we pass it down to them, and then they pass it down to their kids, and it just keeps happening over and over again. So that's the section of this book. I pick up the book, read that section, because it would take 30 videos to really go across what I was discussing. Your fifth question, you said, how to monetize YouTube videos and website. And you asked, does it really work? Yes, 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 3,000 times yes. When you asked me about my wife and her support, when I ran center court basketball back in 2004, she told me then, put Google AdSense ads on your site and put your videos on YouTube. 2004, she did this. I did not do it. At the time, I was getting between 1 to 3 million unique visits per year on my website. I was one of the first and biggest websites in the country at that time. That's not an exaggeration. I had over 500 basketball videos on my site. If you think about if I had used Google AdSense and YouTube then, right now I'd be one of those overnight success or viral stories everyone talks about. I didn't do it. I wanted my website to be clean and all about the players that I was covering. And it was a big mistake on my part. So there goes another one of those big mistakes. I've known pretty much forever that YouTube is a very good tool. But I've just started using YouTube. And as of right now, since I've started doing these videos, I've earned 60 cents. Right? Doesn't sound like a lot. But for me to earn 1 cent, I value the hell out of that. And this is why. If you put $100 in the bank and you put it in savings, you earn maybe 1% back on that dollar. That means at the end of the year, if you were able to keep that $100 in the bank, you get $1. I should even put 2 fingers up. You get $1. But in truth, you really get about 75 cents. I've invested about a week into YouTube. If you total up all of the videos I've done, I've earned 60 cents with the potential for these videos to reach more people, creating residual income. Now, this may not happen, but it could. As of right now, though, if I make it to $1 doing these videos in 1 year, it's the same as saving $100 for 1 year. So does it work? Yeah. It's the way you look at it. All right. Those are the 5 questions that Coach WB had. Very good questions. I appreciate them. I know this video is long. I'm going to make sure I break it into the time so you can click on it in down below in the description. You'll be able to click on the time and the question that you want to go to. But I appreciate you guys for watching. I did a call for you guys to subscribe. You shared it with some people. I'm up to about 55 subscribers now. I appreciate that as well. And I'm looking forward to getting to another question, because I did have another question. So very good. I appreciate those of you who are sending those questions in. Keep doing it. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share the videos with someone. It may not be for you, but I truly think that the videos will help someone. So do that. I'll see you guys next episode. It'll be episode 20. Maybe I'll do a giveaway or something because 20 is a big number. Well, no, I'll wait till episode 21. But I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe. Peace.